Hi, and welcome to episode 5 of The Winter I Went to the Cottage, our heated rivalry rewatch. It's a tongue twister every time. I am Catherine McKenzie.
I'm Heather Webb.
And we are two USA Today bestselling authors. And like many, we've had our The Summer I Turned Pretty obsession transformed into a heated rivalry obsession. I mean, I'm still obsessed with both shows, but the show is steeped in Easter eggs, callbacks, and lots of Conrad Fisher level yearning with explicit sex scenes. Yay. Now that season 2 has been confirmed, we are going to rewatch season 1 and react to the show. This will be a limited series, but we will come back when season 2 comes out. And please like and subscribe the show so you don't miss any content. As a reminder, I have seen everything, and Heather is exercising her patience and watching one episode a week. So this is a spoiler-free zone, but in particular this week, friends, this is the second time we have had to record this episode. We had some technical difficulties, so Heather has really been exercising her patience because I forbade her from going and watching episode 6 until we were able to find a time to re-record
You had
this.
to beat me off with a stick. I was ready to go.
You were ready to go. And I was like, wait, we have a problem. So, and because of that problem, we are going to mix up the format a little bit here today just to keep it a little fresh for us so that we are not repeating ourselves from the episode that was unsalvageable. Damn you, technology. But right before we get into our episode discussion, a few updates on the show, cast, next season, etc. It feels like there's stuff coming out every day. But Jacob gave an interview to the LA Times, and he's been on some podcasts since then, on the Loon Call podcast, as an example. And also, Rachel has been out giving interviews. So we know a bit more about what's probably going to happen in season 2. First of all, there may be an interstitial episode. He didn't say no. And to me, a no in Hollywood is a yes. Like, if it was absolutely, we are not getting an interstitial episode, it means we maybe are. And at least they're going to try and do that. Some ideas of what it might cover is that Jacob mentioned, and sorry, this is a tiny spoiler for Heather, but that there is, at some point, Shane does come out. But in the books, that coming out scene is off page. But in the show, obviously, we would need to see his coming out. So that might be something that interstitial episode is based around. He comes out to his team. He doesn't have a big public coming out before the long game starts, but he does come out to his team. And so then there's consequences to that, obviously. The show is still probably only going to be 6 episodes again. So Jacob actually doesn't want more runway. I'm sure they would give him 8 or 10 episodes if he wanted it. But he likes the challenge, I think, of putting it into 6 episodes again. He's not going to split up the long game into 2 seasons. We are getting a 3rd book for the 3rd season. It will have Canadian unknowns, guys. Stop trying to fan cast your favorite American actors because it's made in Canada, and a huge percentage of the cast, crew, etc. needs to be Canadian to get tax credits and production funding. And they already have Connor's story, and Shane's dad, is also American, and that's like all the Americans they can basically have in the show. So, and it will, I actually literally just before I got on here saw Rachel Reid confirm as much as she could that the other book that's probably going to be covered in season 2 is Role Model. And those stories are very intertwined. Again, for reasons I'm not going to get into because that will spoil it for Heather. If you've read the books, those 2 stories are very intertwined. So it makes sense. And that's what I would do if I were writing on the show too. Okay. Those are our updates for now. Last update actually for you, Heather, because, we were talking about all these shows that are like an Asian character and a white character, and they go to My Cottage, like Bridgerton and The Summer I Turned Pretty and this. So the actor who plays Shane, Hudson Williams, and the actress who plays Sophie in Bridgerton, Year Ha, are doing an event together.
Oh, really?
For, I think it's Chinese New Year or some Asian-focused event for New York Fashion Week coming up. So
how funny.
Yeah, and she did binge watch the show. She said she's Australian, so on a flight from London or New York to Australia or something, she binge watched the show and she's a fan. So we are getting our crossovers. They are already happening, so that's fun. Okay. This episode is called I Will Believe in Anything. It's a great episode of television. Let's go through the summary, but as I said, we're going to mix it up a little bit. So we're going to talk, and instead of me talking boringly for 15 minutes, we'll bring Heather into the discussion and kind of do our scene by scene discussion as we go through. So Shane wakes up the next morning with Rose. He tries to apologize for the night before, and she suggests that they get dinner, just the two of them, later that week. He agrees. I'm going to stop right here because this is actually a huge, oddly, controversy in the fandom about whether this
Really?
is, in fact, the next day or if this is some second time that Rose stays over at the apartment. Yeah. What was
To me,
your
it was the next day. I absolutely felt it. I mean, like, we go from hot and heavy at the end of the previous episode, but he's imagining Ilya, right?
right?
Suddenly, he's like, "Sorry, I did it that keeps happening." And and it's just really obvious, and it's like, okay, it's not working in the bedroom.
Right. I thought it was
Uh,
obvious too. And I actually went and did a deep dive, and I have a whole thread about this if you want to see all the evidence that I gathered. Because I think if you look at the scene with Shane and the scene with Ilya in the airport talking to Marlo, it's just completely obvious from context clues. One, that he was, as I said last week, fantasizing about Ilya. So if you look at the bathroom that Ilya is in when he's staring at himself in episode 4, you can actually see the tub shower behind him, and it's a very utilitarian tub shower. It's not a fancy glass enclosed tub shower like we see him, or shower like we see him in when he's pleasuring himself in Shane's fantasy. In fact, it's the shower that we get a quick cut of at the beginning of episode 4 with Shane and Ilya in it, which makes sense. It's also hazy and steamy like a fantasy would be, you know. When Marlo says to him like, "Oh, did you get any sleep last night in the airport?" That's not the Boston airport. It's a different airport. It's meant to be the Montreal airport. He's talking about the fact that he was with a woman at the club last night because Marlo was there too, right?
Yes.
And then finally, if you come back to the scene with Shane and Rose, when he says it's like, "Oh, I think the pressure of the season is getting to me." Well, in episode 4, the Men in the Crease podcast is talking about how much pressure Montreal is under at that point in the season because they're not where they should be in the standings. So it's all fits together. And the only question is, where did Rose's clothes come from? Because, she was in like a slinky party dress. You guys never heard of an overnight bag?
I mean, girls plan for this kind of thing.
Right, exactly. And also, those might be Shane's clothes. She's wearing a St. Viator bagel t-shirt, and that's a Montreal institution. Like, she might have picked one up while she was filming, but it's much more likely that's actually Shane's jeans and t-shirt that she's putting on. Anyway, who cares? That's like a little continuity error potentially. But so anyway,
Yeah, yeah, and those happen. Like, there's, with all the takes.
well, or just more like nobody's like, "Oh, where did the clothes come from?" We don't need to explain everything, but this is definitely their second time. I think also Rose is so confident and comfortable in his apartment and so comfortable undressing in front of him. It didn't read as a first time to me. We will find out later at the cottage later that I think he's only slept with Rose 2 times. Minor spoiler. So to me, they've already done it once and this is the second time. And like, how
Mm.
many times does Rose need to sleep with him like that to realize like
Well, that's just it. It's like he's not really. I mean, she's walking up the stairs, dropping her clothes
right?
as she
She knows where
walks
she's
up,
going.
and she's hot, and it's like he's just not. It's not working. So something's up.
Something's up, which we find out in this episode what it is, right? So that brings us to the dinner between Shane and Rose, and what a lovely scene. Um, you know, she tells him she thinks he's very cute and likes hanging out with him, but she has the impression that maybe he'd rather be with Miles, who has a crush on him. And then she asks him if he's ever been with a man, and he nods yes, and he flashes back to Ilya in the shower in the first episode. And has he ever told anyone that before? No. Was it different? He goes to the kiss in the stairwell. Yes. Was it better? Then he goes for them kissing in the hotel. Yes. And so they have this sort of sweet scene. I think it's interesting the flashbacks that are chosen here. Like they're, the first time that they were together, the first time that they were together, like fully together, if you want to get heteronormative about it. And apparently there's little tweaks, like people have made edits to the original scene and then what you see in those flashback scenes, and they're slightly tweaked, which is again their memories for him, So and I just thought it was sweet how the role that Rose plays is in his life, like that he's comfortable enough to come out to her
I
and make
love Rose. I
yeah,
love everything about how this goes down. I mean, poor Shane is like discovering, oh, I may not be straight or bi. I might actually be gay, and you see that washing over him.
mhm.
They're still as serious as the dinner conversation is. I feel like there's still a little bit of a playfulness because you see his sense of humor, and she's so sweet and open and warm about it, even joking about him being her best gay boyfriend, and I just think that I love her. He needed somebody like this.
He does.
He needed that sort of touchstone friend that believes in him, besides Hayden, who, Hayden cares about him and he's like, go on, dude, go get you some. But you
Yeah.
don't know for sure if he's going to be open minded about Shane being gay or not. Right. And
Yeah.
so having Rose is totally essential.
I think so. And I think, in the way that Ilya has Svetlana, which we'll talk about in a second, that is now he has somebody like Rose who's going to sort of play a similar role, really almost an identical role, someone that he's been sexually intimate with, who knows him obviously for a much shorter time. Like, again, in my deep dive, I think I figured out that Shane and Rose really only together for about a month in December of 2016. Maybe early November, but it's a short relationship. But they're able to open up to each other right away. And she gets him, she gets him. And as
He
you
does.
say, presents him to himself without judgment, it was like a low stakes way for him to come out, was that?
It was perfect. Yeah. I think also, it just shows how confident she is just from a character perspective because
Hmm.
That could have gone very badly. And
Yes.
she just wasn't, she was completely cool about the whole thing and just like, this happens to me. The actors, there's a large gay population among actors, and I always end up being attracted to cute, funny, nice ones who happen to be
Happened to be
gay.
gay.
Right? And low stakes is a good way to put it, but it just also like her confidence and her very open demeanor was exactly what he needed. Could you imagine if it had been a different way? Well, so that's the other thing I was thinking about. Like, what if it had been sort of this big blow up? I think it would have made him regress.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good point. I think this gives him the confidence to do what he does later in the episode, which is kind of confront his feelings. And
Yes, it's kind of the runway for that, isn't it?
100%. And at the end of
Yeah.
the conversation where she's sort of like pushing miles on him and he's like, "Oh, I need to figure some stuff out first," because obviously his coming out also comes with like all he can think about is Ilya, right? So
Yep.
we don't as a change from the books, he is with a couple of other people in the books. I don't think you find that out in the first book, but in the second book, he had some brief other relationships, and he's definitely slept with more than one woman, or here we have a hint of an old girlfriend. But here he's really like not sexually involved, and that's what Ilya is saying to him in the previous. It's like, I never hear about you with girls, like. And I think this is just occurring to me, but the relationship with Rose shows how there couldn't have been any girls because literally they get papped like on their first real date. So again, Montreal's a hockey town. If he was out with girls, like people would be reporting on that, taking photos, just like with regular celebrities, in Hollywood or in New York. So I think he really isn't with anyone except for Ilya.
Yeah.
And then I think the fact that his coming out is married with these tender and passionate images of Ilya it's kind of like, whoops, like he's realizing in that moment that like, it's not just like this thing that I do to like relieve tension while I'm
Right.
on the
I mean, when
road.
she's like, was it better? And he's got all these flashes and he's like, "Oh, yeah, it was definitely better."
Right. But the flashback to it's so interesting because the was it different flashback is the kiss in the stairwell. And the was it better flashback is their second time in the hotel room in Vegas in episode 1 where he like kicks off his shoes and like launches himself at him. So I think I think it's cool that he remembers like a tender moment and a heated moment to go with our heated rivalry metaphor. So I think that's his like he's not just realizing he's gay, which I think he kind of had to admit it to himself already. I think he probably thought he might be bi if he had to putting a label on it and he just had not met the right girl and he was hoping Rose would be the right girl so that he could leave that part of him that was obsessed with Ilya behind. And then he's realizing, like, even with the girl that is perfect on paper, we're not compatible, to quote him from later in the episode. And all I can think about is Ilya. So, yeah, he has some things to figure out for sure.
Indeed. Indeed, he
Indeed.
does. Our little Shane.
Our little Shane. Oh, poor Shaney. And then we get a sort of parallel scene, right, of somebody else helping to give some runway to to Ilya, he's in bed with Svetlana watching hockey. Again, I'm trying to be polite, but some people I think are lacking a little like context clues. They are in their underwear, guys. He just had sex with Svetlana. Okay, like come on.
To me, it was pretty obvious. I mean, they're in front of the TV. It's late at
She's
night.
wearing his Boston Raiders shirt. She's in her underwear. He's in his boxers. Like they didn't just like
They're
get in
on
their
the bed.
underwear and get on the bed and watch TV. Like, come on. People are so funny. And I get it. I get it. You want Ilya to be like so devoted to Shane that he wouldn't be sleeping still with Svetlana at this moment. But I think up until now, he never associates those two things together. Like
I agree.
they're completely separate for him.
They are. We
Yeah.
were talking about like a long-term friendship and sexual
Yeah.
relationship. I
Yeah.
mean, years and years. So
You're,
it's not one of those things that just is going to go by the wayside so quickly.
yeah. Well,
Quickly over years of him dating. But honestly, they hook up what, twice a year or something? 3 times a year if they're
Yeah,
lucky?
probably 4. We only see a couple of times a year, but the conferences meet, like 4 times a year. So at least 4 probably, and maybe as many as 6. So yes, it's a long-term relationship that he has with Svetlana. And I think also, kind of a situationship there too, right? Like he's
Yeah.
actually got 2 situationships going on. But what I think in that conversation is like if there was any doubt, and again, we'll get real confirmation later in the show that she knew like that Jane was a man, and in fact that Jane is Shane. I will die on this hill. She knows that Jane is Shane, till proven otherwise. And if they don't go there in season 2, I'm actually going to be disappointed because like to me it's just obvious that she knows. But anyway, whatever.
I think
Um,
they will. I mean, even later in this same episode, it's so super obvious.
I think so. Yeah, I think here this is when it becomes completely obvious to her because this is like she's found him watching Shane on TV like entranced and has been like, "Oh, he's hot." And he's like, click, turns off the TV. And then here, again, she's doing on her like hockey dissertation about the season. And she's like, "Oh, and you're going to be on line with Shane." And he's like, "Do you think he's bad too?" And she's like, "No, he's amazing and he's hot." And he's like, "Whatever you say," you know, like, and like, obviously this is a guy, they've had these types of conversations before is the implication to me. If she's said to him before in the past about a player or somebody, "Oh, that guy's hot," he would have agreed if he thought so. As opposed to being like, "No, well, you say so." And then she's just staring at him like, "Oh, come on," you know? And so I think her wheels are turning,
For
right?
sure. I mean,
For
she's
sure.
completely onto them. She can tell. I mean, she's known Ilya for so many years too. Like she can see in his subtle body language, the subtext. She's reading the subtext, about how he acts towards her or doesn't, and how he acts when he responds to Shane or not,
Right.
and other people too. I forgot the name of the other guy. Was it Sasha? What was the guy?
Sasha, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's a smart cookie. So, yeah.
She is, and I think one of the other themes here is that, like, everyone is clocking them, or the people they're close to in their life are
Yeah,
clocking him.
they're
So
they're on to something.
Rose is clocking him. Hayden is clocking that he texts with somebody in Boston. Boston Lily, "Oh, just a friend, huh?" Like that's from the last episode, and again in this episode later on when they go to hook up together, and he's like, "I don't care, just go hook up with your Boston lady." So I think everything is setting everyone the externally in their life. People are like, "Hello, there's somebody in your life that it's like the most important person in your life that you are just like not being open about. So what is that?" Right? Like what's going on here? And then that sets us up for the All-Star Game, which is just to me a series of incredible scenes.
I
The
love
payoff,
I
yeah.
love I love them working together. All
Yeah. The hockey is great. And I think also like there's the whole setup at the bar. So when we get to the All-Star Game, there's Ilya nervously at the bar. This is, we know from the book, the team party. They are finally playing on the same team for the first time, the Eastern Conference All-Star team. So he knows Shane's coming to this party because Shane is a rule follower, and it's time for the team party. Shane's going to be there, He's waiting. He's looking around. He's nervous. He's drinking his beer. And then when Shane walks in and he spots him, he says to himself, like, "Okay, like, here we go." And then Shane sits down next to him. He can't even look at Shane. He's just like, he is convinced in his mind that Shane is like in a relationship with Rose Landry and is like over him, not thinking about him anymore, but it's killing him and he needs to know. And so he brings up Rose
Which
Landry.
we see with the many questions.
Yeah. But he
Yeah.
brings up Rose Landry. I think I counted, I was like the
4?
last time 4 times. Yeah,
Yeah.
4 times, right? It's like, oh, so did you bring anyone? No, Shane says, you're like,
My
so
parents aren't here. Dave's
yeah.
like, "That is not what I meant."
Yeah, I didn't mean that. You're so literal. Okay, let me try again. And then he's like, oh, you're looking very pretty today. Did somebody take you shopping? And he's like, no, I hired a stylist. And he's like, okay, but that still doesn't eliminate Rose Landry, So he's just like, okay, I'm going to ask like even more directly. So like you and Rose are not together? And he's like, no, we're not. We're not compatible. And then his brain is still like short circuiting because he's like, okay, do I understand what compatible means? Like, what is he telling me? Is he's saying that because she's a girl? Is he saying that because they just didn't work out? Like, what does it mean? What does it mean? But okay, they're not together. They're not together. He's just like processing. They're out in public for the first time together, though. This is the first time since they shot that commercial together, which wasn't really public, right? Like Shane's mom was there.
Right.
This is the first time that they have been anywhere publicly together or that press conference. But again, is that really alone together? Like, it isn't. So it's a pretty not shocking moment, but it's an interesting moment out in the daylight where everyone can see them. They're definitely flirting, definitely. And there's lots of double entendres, I think. Like, I've always wondered what it would be like to be playing for the same team. And, that sort of maybe we can figure out if we have anything in common. And right, they're definitely flirting to the extent that they can. And at the end of that scene, Ilya was so nervous and stressed, and he's happy. He's like smiling. He's hiding his smile.
So nice when he actually smiles.
It's
It
nice.
feels so earned, doesn't
Yes,
it? I mean,
does.
I think I've only seen him smile twice, maybe in the whole 5 episodes.
Well, they laugh when they're shooting.
That quirky,
Yeah,
but no.
They laugh when they're shooting the commercial, and we see him laughing with Svetlana in bed just before this.
Right.
But it's true. There's not many
Not a lot.
like.
I mean, this is a full, genuine Cheshire grin on his face. I think it's like, okay, he's immediately going to make fun, like tease him,
Yes.
Right?
Well, he's so surprised by the answer that like his whole face lights up, like, which is.
Well, it's a relief, right? That it's not Rose that is buying his, helping him buy his wardrobe. That I think it's kind of double fold. It's like, now I get to make fun of him, but mostly I'm just relieved.
I'm just relieved. Yeah, and just the way this whole scene is shot, like, first of all, it's the daylight, Ilya's wearing bright colors, like, Shane has changed up his closet, like, he's come out of the closet, wearing different clothes. One of my favorite lines of the whole series is when Ilya goes, I know what you wore. I know what
He said what?
He says, I know what you wore, because he's like, I just wore athletic stuff. Like, I didn't look like shit, because that's what Ilya says. And he's like, I know what you wore. Like, I'm aware. And I just love that line. And it's actually the first time when Ilya says to him, like, you didn't want to look like shit anymore. It's actually the first time that he really shit talks Shane, I think, because it's normally Shane who's calling him an asshole, telling him to fuck off and whatever. And Ilya doesn't normally talk like that to Shane, but it's flirtatious. Anyway, the way that bar is framed, there's like a cage like hanging over the bar, but it's lifted, right? It's like this golden cage is lifted. So if you want to take that metaphor, they're like coming out of their prison that they've put themselves in.
And I completely did not notice that in the episode. So when I rewatched the whole series, which is going to happen as soon as we're done with episode 6, I'm going to rewatch it all. Or maybe I'll wait until. No, I'm not going to wait. I'll rewatch it all. And
what
then
are you
I will
girl?
rewatch it again before season 2 comes.
Girl, what are you talking about? You're rewatching. And then this takes us into this like pool cross-cut with them playing hockey together scene.
Love that too. I love almost every scene in this entire episode. I think I do love every scene in this episode.
It's true. Every scene is great.
It's
but
so good.
I mean, talk about a change in Ilya's personality. Well, I don't think it's a change. I think we're seeing the real Ilya now.
I think we are too. We're seeing an unguarded version of him, like the version of this guy. He feels accepted, right? I think he's feeling this acceptance and feeling seen. And so he's able to be freer. And you see that with the kids in the pool, which is totally adorable. And Shane's watching him.
Of course. But both of them are out in the sunlight. Like, I think there's a freedom that comes with like, oh, we can actually talk to one another and people aren't going to be like, oh my God, Shane and or like Hollanov, that's their ship name. Rozanov and Hollander are talking to one another, which is any other time, like at the end of this episode when Shane does go over to him on the ice, like any other time they talk to each other, somebody notices and asks them, what's that about? Like way back when Hunter did it
Yeah.
at the All-Star game. And then later in this episode, Hayden does it. So like, it's not normal for them to be talking to one another but except for here. So they have the freedom to tease one another, talk to one another, just be bros in, in public. So I think it's nice. And then on the ice, everything is so copacetic, sympathetic between them. The like pass, the tap on the ice, like the
Cute
goal.
flirty looks too, like, "Isn't this so fun?" Is there you see
Yeah.
a couple flashes of their faces when they're
Yeah.
passing to each other, and I love it.
And
That
there's
made
some
me so extraordinarily happy. That little back and forth, I just went, "Oh, they finally
it's
get to work together instead of against each other," which was lovely.
yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And there is great internal monologue there in the book, I think, where it's just like, "Oh, someone who could keep up with me," like it was fun playing on a line with him, because we have these two guys who are sort of stand above everyone else in the game, and they don't have someone like that to play with on their team. So that it's just like a fulfilled thing there. And then they end up on the beach at sunset. Aw, and I just love the dialogue here too, where Ilya's like, found you, and he says, so you were looking for me? Of course not, and then he sits down. One of the things I noticed in this scene is this is the first time Ilya looks around to make sure no one can see them. And it's the first time and only time in the entire show that he does that. Because I think he's nervous for the first time, right? Like when
Well,
he
he
leaves.
feels more naked and exposed in a way he
Mm,
hasn't before because he's just really kind of being himself, and that makes him feel yeah, then he's looking around like, "Can anyone else see me being me?"
yeah. Because in all the hotel room scenes, like think about Ilya. Like Ilya, like in the first shower scene, for instance, like anybody could have walked in on them, but Ilya takes the risk. He likes the risk even. And when he leaves the hotel room after their first time together, which is like I think the only time you see him leave the hotel room, he does not check both ways or check the people before he leaves. He just leaves. Whereas every single time Shane leaves, he's like checking outside to make sure nobody
Mhm.
sees them. So I think this is like he's the only time that he checks, it's like he's actually he feels vulnerable here in a way that like if they got caught that people would know that it meant something
Mm,
as opposed to I think whatever story he had ready in his head that like oh I was just telling him to fuck off. Like nobody would think that I was in his room because we were having sex. But here, if they see us, like, yes, somebody would notice that something was going on. Because what he really wants to do is just hold Shane's hand, just wants to touch Shane. So they do that. And then Shane asks for Ilya's room number, which we have never seen Shane do
very forward
before.
of him, young man.
Very forward of him. He has suggested sex before, right? When he's like, when they're texting in episode 4, he's like, oh, do you want to get murdered in a dark alley in 2 weeks? So he has for what he wanted, but like not like this, not like
Right.
looking at him what room are you in? So then we get to Ilya's room. He's getting calls from his brother, which he ignores, foreshadowing. And Shane comes in and he is so good, but he is
Mhm.
nervous. He's nervous. And I love Ilya in this scene. He's like, this looks serious, like what's happening?
This is a great line, and just the way he stands back away from him, like, right
Mm,
by the doorway, far
mm.
from the side of the bed, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and eagle-eyed people have spotted that there was a ginger ale in the mini fridge. So like
Uh,
did there just happen to be a ginger ale or did he go find a ginger ale and put it in his mini fridge because Shane was coming?
also, like, okay, he's stepping back away, right, and this sounds serious, like, is he afraid that Shane's about to dump him? Maybe. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
he's not with Rose, but, they've kind of been like, "We don't need to be doing this, everything," this
Right.
is a bad idea, right? So,
Right, right, right,
yeah,
right.
he might
Yeah.
be afraid of getting dumped.
Yeah, exactly. Like, okay, maybe being with Rose made him realize like, okay, it didn't work out with Rose. Excuse me, but
Right. It's not
this isn't
happening.
it. this isn't it either, you know? And I think at this point, we don't have access to his thoughts till later in the episode, but I think he's like realized that he's in love with Shane at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, that makes him so vulnerable. So he puts his walls back up. He's just like,
Yeah.
why are you so serious? You know, Shane's, and that now who's being obtuse in this scene? It's not Shane anymore. It's Ilya, right? Because
Mhm.
Shane says, you feel it too. It's not just me. And he's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you know what I'm talking about. And he's like, is simple. And he's like, simple, really? Yeah, we fuck, we get together. It's simple. And he's like, it's not.
Counseling it all.
Yeah, he's downplaying it because, like, well, we find out why kind of immediately when Shane pushes to say, like, you know, it was nice and I'm sorry about last time and I freaked out. He apologizes twice and he gets Ilya to admit that it was nice. And he's like, and then he pushes again and he's like, it feels like we could be something. And then Ilya's like, no, we can't be anything. And then he ties that all back to Russia, right? And so I think this is a full circle moment for Shane because I think Shane has an idea. Like when they first go in, I was rewatching to do an analysis the first time they're together, way back in episode 1. When he finds out that Ilya has been with a man before, he's like, weren't you guys worried about getting caught? So like he knew that was a bad idea back
Mhm.
then. And then when he gets what Carter tells him at the Olympics, it's not just a bad idea. You know, you could go to jail in Russia. And then he becomes really concerned about Ilya's safety. And then but he still hasn't fully understood that, like, if he came out publicly, like, he could never go home again. Like, he'd get his passport revoked, you know? He could just never return to Russia or he would get arrested. That's what Ilya thinks. And so, you know, Ilya, it's the first time Ilya, I think, is actually not playfully upset with him, but, like, actually upset since that rooftop conversation
Mhm.
at the end of season 1 where he's like, I go home to Russia in 3 days. And Shane's like, must be nice. And he's like, no, like, why
It's
don't
a
you?
nightmare.
Yeah, it's a nightmare. Here's my nightmare. And then he opens up. And then he tells him everything, right? His dad is police. His brother is police. His mother is dead. He doesn't want to find out what would happen to him. And with a little more probing, his dad is sick. And I love when Shane's like, oh, crazy? And he's like, yeah, that too. But no, he's dying. He has dementia. And then he
Then
breaks down.
there's this beautiful exchange between them, and
Yeah, he breaks
like
down.
he's crying, Ilya's crying,
Yeah,
Shane's hugging him, and
yeah.
that
He just
whole
like gathers him into his arms, basically.
just pulls
Mm,
him in. There's
yeah,
not a lot of talking. He just takes him in his arms. It's very beautiful. I love
it
it.
is. It is. And then for the first time, their sex is off screen. So, like, I guess it's a little bit off screen in episode 4, the tuna meltdown. Like,
Yeah.
the first time the tuna meltdown, it's a little, we see them kissing, but we don't see any details, I think, of what happens, if I'm right. But this is fully off screen, like closed
Well,
door, I
we
think it's
talked about
called.
last time too how this is kind of typical for men, I feel.
Right.
Be anytime they're dating somebody hot and new that they're excited about, they talk about the sex or they talk about hooking up and they talk about this and that. But as soon as things get serious and intimate in an emotional way, they're more committed, then all of that sort of falls away because they want to
Hmm.
protect that privacy, right? And you see, this is a great reflection of that, I think.
Yeah.
It started off super sexual in the first few episodes, and they're on screen, right? And then it becomes where the emotion takes center stage and the sexual steps back.
Yeah. 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 Well, the last time was the episode that we had to ditch. So,
Right. Well, that's why I said that. I wanted to bring it up because we had this, like, it didn't work.
it didn't work.
Tech difficulty. So anyway,
Tech
I thought it was such a
difficulties.
good point that we should revisit for sure.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're sitting at home going, I don't remember them saying that before, it's because you didn't hear it.
You didn't see it.
You literally couldn't hear it. That was the problem. So, but anyway, we have the aftermath of them sleeping together, and Ilya's just watching him, and now it's Shane's turn to be like, "What?" You know? And he says nothing, and then he takes a breath and he says, "Good night, Shane," which is he's taking a risk. The last time he called Shane, Shane bolted and like didn't talk to him for months and went and dated a famous woman. And then Shane gets like how important that moment is to both of them, and he says, "Good night, Ilya," back. So cute. They're so
It's
cute.
very cute.
I just want to like take their little cheeks. They're so cute and hot. They are cute and hot at the same time. It's
They
interesting.
are.
And then 2 weeks later, Ilya invites him over during the day before the match. Shane is like, it's a terrible idea. And
Everything we do is a bad idea, which is
yeah,
great.
great. Great line. And then once again, we don't see the sex, but afterwards, Shane starts asking Ilya questions about his family because his brother is calling. And Ilya's like, "You have too many questions, like, stop." And Shane's like, "I'm sorry." He's like, "It's okay. It's okay." And then Shane gets like super playful and is like, "We're going to destroy you." And Ilya's like, "Oh, so you're the asshole." And they're doing this funny like thing that couples do, like, "Hey everyone, Shane Hollander's an asshole," but like nobody's there to hear you. But in fact, yeah, good banter. In fact, Ilya does destroy Shane and gets a hat trick in the game. Super smart way to film that, where we only see the locker room coming in and coming back. But Ilya's victory is interrupted by a phone call from his brother and a cut to the next morning with JJ back in the Montreal Metros locker room saying, "Oh, did you hear about Rozanov?" And immediately Shane like bolts in from the showers and was like, "What about Rozanov?" And he didn't travel with the team. What do you mean he didn't travel with the team? Like, dude, you have zero chill at this point. Like zero chill.
If you're trying to hide something, you're not doing a good job.
Really not doing a good job. And in fact, to translate, because they don't translate what JJ is saying, but he says "capate pas," which is like don't get your britches in a knot sort of thing. Like don't freak out. Like "capate pas." Like it's very Quebecois slang of like calm down, I guess is probably the best translation. So Shane does not calm down. Shane immediately takes out his phone and texts Ilya. And then when he gets home, he does something he's never done before and he calls Ilya. We get Ilya's classic voicemail. "This is Ilya. I will never listen to your voicemail." I need to grab that audio and put it on my voicemail because
It's
that's
funny.
definitely true also. And then Ilya calls him back when Shane is in bed wearing his glasses. So we get introduced to Shane and his glasses, which Ilya loves. But we
I
also
also
learn yeah, they're cute. We also learned that his dad is dead and he is in Russia. And Shane is like, "That's awful. I'm so sorry." And Ilya's like, "Well, you can make me feel better. Take off your shirt
get
and
naked, baby.
get naked and get those glasses back on." But once again, whatever happens between them happens off screen. Though, honestly, the only book scene that I'm a bit sad they cut is this scene in the book because they end up having this like really deep conversation after the sex over Skype, which would have been cute to see. But I get it. This is a jam-packed episode and we did not have
There
time
was
for
so
that.
much.
We did not. Cut to Ilya at the funeral, the dinner afterwards with the family, just the way this whole thing is shot. Svetlana is there. Ilya, like, feels like an outsider, I think, He just is looking around and everyone's staring at him and it's his dad too. Anyway, he and his brother have a confrontation and Ilya gets violent even with his brother when Alexei insults Svetlana and he's like, "Here, take my apartment. I'm going to have a trust for my niece, but like, if you ever talk to me again, I'm going to ruin you," basically. And when his brother leaves, he has a tender moment with Svetlana where she's like trying to console him and he's like, "You're too good for me," which is an echo of a line that she says to him back in episode 1. And, they exchange "I love yous," but it's kind of like goodbye. It feels like goodbye, even though it isn't. They feel like "I love you" goodbyes, if that
It
makes
does
sense.
feel a little bit like a goodbye now that you say that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this is the end of this, is what it feels like. And
But it's definitely a door closing on something.
yeah. Which for Svetlana too, it's interesting because Ilya says that it's for Svetlana is the same for him. Like they're friends. Sometimes we fuck. It's nothing serious. But does Svetlana really feel that way? I'm not so sure.
I mean, I don't think so after that conversation there. She's basically like, "You don't feel the same way."
Yeah.
And then he says, "I know you know I love you." So to me, that was a very clear indication that she knows who he is, but she was still hoping
Yeah.
that it would be more.
I think she would be willing to have more. Like she was
Yes.
also okay with him kissing other girls in front of her, but I think that if he wanted more, she would be into that. I think she was probably protecting herself, like he's
Mm.
going to be like this, I'm going to be like this, but she she wants to be a good friend to him and she's like, "Hey, I know it's not the same with me as it is with Jane," and then says he's a lucky man. And the second time she pronounces Jane in this, she says it. So from what I understand in Russia, there's like a shush sound, like SH sound, and depending on how you say it, it emphasizes words differently. You can give them different meaning. And I think she's really almost saying Shane when you listen carefully the second time. Like she
Mm.
says it much closer. All the other times she's very clear to like denote the J and say Jane, but here she says Shane. Like it's much more So I think she knows. We'll find out. And then what does Ilya do? He goes outside and he texts Shane and asks if Shane could talk. So even though he has like his best friend right there, he could tell her whatever he wants in that moment. He wants to talk to Shane. So
Yeah, I have so many thoughts about this entire progression of scenes, these 3 little mini scenes.
yeah,
I love Ilya at the window, framed by the curtain, looking out at, Mother Russia holding his vodka, and
the wind howling.
there's howling wind, there's this intense classical music playing, and it's
Hmm.
very much the wind is a reflection of his internal self, right? He's feeling lonely and angry and sad and
Hmm.
a million conflicting emotions. And it's all there in that, like, whatever that is, a 30-second clip, maybe it's even shorter. And you see it there, and it's just so brilliantly shot. And that old world feel, the darkness, you go right into the dinner scene and it's so dark that it's just, it's shrouded in darkness and sadness. And
Yeah,
then, of course, the fight with the brother after that. And I loved seeing Ilya stick up for himself there against his brother, who has done nothing but take from him. And Ilya, has done nothing but give.
right.
So, yeah, I love all that. I thought it was brilliant. And I also like that it helps you understand why Ilya is reticent to give outside of his family, because what he has learned that love looks like is that.
Right.
So, you can understand why he is, very closed off when it comes to sharing himself emotionally with somebody. So, and that's very much reflected in those couple of mini scenes that make up
Yeah.
one sort of bigger, longer scene.
Yeah. Ever since his mom died when he was 12, which we'll find out again, minor spoiler, we find out in the next episode how old he was when his mom died. Um yeah, he hasn't had anyone, to be there for him the way parents should be, right? His dad is so hard on him. Like it's a classic dynamic. This guy is literally like the best hockey player in the world and the dad's like you're not good enough. Like what else do you want from me? And then the brother is also abusive and then you see that confession to Shane in the tunnel. So, he goes into the tunnel. He's like trying to express himself. He has trouble. Shane suggests he speak in Russian. And one of the things he says in that soliloquy is that, my brother hates me, has always hated me, and I know why, but, like even if you understand why somebody hates you, it doesn't make it better, like
It
obviously.
it doesn't, and it also he continues to put up with it because it's his brother, of
Right.
course,
Of course.
And
Of
there's
course.
this very strong history of duty bound, being that way with your family in,
Hmm.
sort of older Western cultures. Less so in the US. It's not, I don't know
Right.
about Canada. I mean, it's definitely an important value, but
Right.
it's not the same as it is there, especially in Russia.
I would agree with that here. I don't think that that's like people aren't expected to, like he's beating himself up because he couldn't be there to take care of his dad when he literally couldn't be there. He wasn't there. He's making the money for the family, but he feels like
He's
he should
keeping
be
the
there.
entire family afloat, like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. They
while they're
hate,
yelling at him on the phone about giving more. So it's
I
like,
know.
what is he supposed to do? Yeah.
Right. And, that's what he says. They just say more and more. They just want more, more Ilya, more, 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 more. And I have nothing left to give. I have nothing for these people. I have nothing to give them. I have given them everything that I can, and it's not enough. And then, of course, he confesses his love to Shane
Oh
because,
god, this scene.
I know the scene, my God, the
I
tissues.
cried. Did you cry?
It takes a lot to make me cry.
I
I'd probably
totally,
be like
and I'm not. I'm
close.
just definitely a
Yeah,
crier.
I would be closer to tears probably now. I would say, like, in a weird way, because I think I'm more attached to them as people.
Makes
So
sense.
I find it more emotional watching it now than the first time I watched it. I think the first time I watched it, I was just like stunned with the acting that was happening in
Well,
front of
the
me and
acting
the
was
writing,
unreal. It
you
was
know?
such a powerful scene for so many reasons, but yeah,
Yeah.
that I cried the first time,
Yeah.
and it was like there's like this hand over your heart, like
I
fist,
know.
chest, watching
Yeah.
it, and then I rewatched it because I was like, I need to see it again, and I cried again. I texted you. I'm like, I'm
I
crying
did.
again the
I
second
cried
time. Oh
again.
my god!
Yeah,
What a
I think the
gorgeous
emotional
thing.
talking about the scene, that,
Mm.
like, in his lowest moment, he's reaching out to Shane. Shane is like being a vessel, literally, for his pain. And just to be in that moment where he just expresses out loud how alone he feels. And that part of the reason he feels so alone is because he is so in love with Shane and he can't say it out loud. And he doesn't know how it's going to be received by Shane if he does say it out loud, because he's still in doubt about how Shane
Well, Shane
feels about,
ran off last time they had a normal, really intimate. I mean, there was
right.
one after that between, but he's still not sure he's going to stick around, right? So
Yeah, and even though Shane said, like, I like you maybe a little too much back in the hotel, like, that's different than being like, I am so in love with you. Like, I can't
totally
handle
devoted.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think this is the first time that Ilya's ever been in love. He's 25 years old. He's never been in love before. Those are big emotions. Like, remember the first time you were in love? Like, I don't know. I was a crazy person. So,
I think
like,
you're kind of crazy until you've had your heart broken a couple of times, and then you realize I need to just calm down.
yeah.
It's like you can't survive that kind of intensity forever. You have to kind of,
I think
yeah.
it's also, you have to know that you can survive. That's
Yes.
the thing with first love, is that you don't know that you can survive if it
Mhm.
ends, because it feels like you're going to die
It does.
if
It
it
does.
ends.
It's
So
very melodramatic.
very melodramatic. So once it normally it ends, most people don't end up with their first love. If it ends and you do survive, then you're like, okay, so this would still suck in horrible ways, but there will be another side to this, and there's like power that comes with that information, right?
Mm.
But these two have not been through that. Like, neither of them's had a serious relationship,
Mhm.
and that even this person who means like the world to him, they barely know one another. Like, they know each other fundamentally in some ways, but not at all in others. So it's all just very scary stuff. He's alone. His dad just died. He's full of emotions. And Shane is there for him. And then he tries to cover with banter afterwards. Like, Shane suggests, you could teach me Russian. He's like, only useful phrases. And then
And we know what
Shane,
those are,
yeah,
Ilya.
yeah. Well, he suggests a couple, like, fuck me, please, whatever, more, Ilya. More. And then Shane's like, he's not going to be distracted. I really like directed Shane, like, where Shane is like, no, how about I wish you were here right now? And frankly, I might have burst into tears if I was Ilya. Shane said that to me. Well, that's a lot.
It is. It
It's a
is.
lot. Yeah.
I have other thoughts about it, but I think we're going to circle back to some of that anyway.
Yeah. Well, I think the music of it all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. Tell us your other
All
thoughts about
right.
it.
You
Yeah.
know how much I love this scene because so when Ilya goes into the tunnel, it's just so beautifully framed, so beautifully shot. Besides the words, the intonation, just like his anguished look, then you have it's nighttime, it's snowing, he's in this dark tunnel, and there's like this golden light at the end of this tunnel that he's looking towards while he's talking on the phone. And then you've got Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata in the background, which is like a dagger in the heart, just twisted around. If you know anything about Beethoven and his music and how he was going deaf when he wrote that, he was almost entirely deaf, I think, when he wrote Moonlight Sonata and was incredibly heartbroken from a tragic love affair himself. So hearing that, but that was such the perfect song. Like they could have picked a better song. Yeah, it was an absolutely brilliant shot from every angle. And a brilliant scene, I should say, from every angle. I loved it. It
Yeah.
was so good.
I just saw a clip, like an interview with the dialect coach who was like in tears when the scene was, so yeah, he just did an incredible job, honestly. And then it's a week later, they're back in North America and the teams are facing each other again. And Shane, as I mentioned before, goes to talk to him on the ice and gives him the front door code to his house, to which Ilya responds, brave. Remember that word. That comes back in episode 6. And Shane, tells him to fuck off. But he also tells Hayden that Ilya's gruffness is mostly an act. So, and then at the face-off, I love this moment at the face-off. They're just like so happy and
They're
playful.
so happy.
They're
They're
so
like
happy.
looking at each other really flirtatiously.
It's playful, and
Yeah,
Shane
it's
gets the
lovely.
puck and skates around Ilya. He's
He
showing
looks
off.
back like,
Yeah, he looks back and then bam!
yeah. I mean,
He
that's
gets flat.
exactly it.
That's it. He gets flattened by Marlowe. I didn't see that moment coming, which is brilliant. Like, not that I necessarily saw anything coming, but I wasn't. this moment genuinely surprised me. And then Shane is just like out on the ice, and Ilya is so shaken. He will not move. He's like freaking out. It's written all over his face. The stupid broadcasters who were like, well, even though these two are rivals, there's a lot of respect there.
What's the word? Not companionship, but sportsmanship.
Sportsmanship,
Good
yes.
sportsmanship,
Literally,
Yeah.
anytime they see anything that looks gay, it's just like, that's sportsmanship. Even I think, like, we'll hear that kind of again in a few minutes. But so, and then he actually is like, is he okay? Fucking tell me, And they're like, get back, Rozanov. And then they cut to Shane telling the medics to like let Ilya know that he's okay because he's going to worry. And he even says his name out loud. It's a big change from the books. I don't know if you remember, but in the books, Ilya's over Shane, and Shane is telling him, we're not alone. Like, there are other people around. People can see us, which is
Back
actually
off.
actually crazy. He's like, so I think it's a good change. They've made a good
I
change
agree.
here.
I think,
Yeah. Because again, like, there's zero chill.
this is much more desperate as well. It's got that more angst built in, which is always a good thing.
Yeah. And then we get the next morning in the hospital, and Ilya comes to visit, and he's shaken, and he's got like a lump in his throat, and
And he rubs Shane's face with his thumb, which is super cute. Right below his freckle line.
Yeah,
Love it.
he asked Shane for the first time, "Are you okay?" Right? Shane's always the one asking him if he's okay. And Shane is high. He's so high, and he's like, "Ah, come here!" And Ilya's like, "Shh, like, dude," like, and he's like, "Better, hold my hand. It's better."
I feel like he's making fun of. He's like teasing Ilya and his accent. Better.
Yeah.
He's
Yes.
like
Yes. Yes. Yes.
mimicking him, which is
Yes,
cute.
I think so, which is cute.
Yeah.
And Shane wanted to ask Ilya something the night before, and then Ilya's like, no, don't, like, just, and he's just like, will you come to my cottage this summer? We can have 1 week, maybe 2, completely alone together. It's so cute,
Come
that
to the
scene.
cottage, baby.
Come to the cottage,
I'm
baby.
ready to go to the cottage.
Let's go. Oh, Heather needs to go to the cottage. And Ilya wants to say no, but he says maybe. Then they get interrupted by a nurse. And again, a very funny moment where Shane's like, uh-oh. Oh, no. He says, oh, no. Sorry, that's what he says. No. And then he's like, talks to Shane, and Shane talks to Ilya in this like rough way, almost in a Russian accent also. He's like, see you next season. I have to put on my straight man jacket again, They're so funny. And so then Shane is with his parents recuperating. Ilya's in the playoffs, but he's injured. He gets eliminated by Scott Hunter's team. And then afterwards, they're sort of flirting, talking about Scott Hunter through text. And I love when Shane texts to him, like, at least you have a type, because Ilya's calling Scott Hunter boring, and Shane like is clocking what this is what he means when he likes somebody. So he's like, don't use my name. That's my pet name. Don't you dare call anybody else boring. And then Shane is watching the cup with his parents. Ilya and Svetlana are watching it together. Big moment, and little tiny moment before we get to the big moment. Looks like Ilya's going back to Russia. He's got a suitcase. He's saying...
He does, yeah.
Svetlana is like, oh, don't forget the presents for your niece. And he's like, put them in the suitcase. I just can't believe he was going to go back to Russia. That's how scared he is of going to the cottage. He was literally going to go back to the place he never wanted to go to before. But anyway, Scott Hunter wins.
Duty bound, he feels. He still has
I know,
sense of
okay.
duty. I mean, that's a big part of it.
Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Again, that old world sense of duty to family is sometimes hard to understand. I think it's way more intense than it is for us out west here.
I don't think that's what that is here. I think it's what he says in the hospital. He says, I can't do that. Or I know, we can't do that. I think he says, I can't. Like, he's like, we can't be together. He's still in that mind frame of like, we cannot be together.
It's a combo.
So I think he's afraid. I think he's running away a little bit.
For sure.
But okay, here's something I literally only clocked this time, and only because somebody else mentioned it on Threads. When Scott and Kip are together the first time, it's in 2014 at the Sochi Olympics. We are now in 2017.
Right. So they've obviously been like back and forth a bit off and on and up and down.
I don't know. I would really love to. Well, I don't know, because like, first of all, we don't know how long the relationship goes on for. Like, I haven't put together a timeline of episode 3, so I don't know how long that goes on, like between when they start dating 4 months before the Olympics. And then do they go through the Olympics or do they break up afterwards? Unclear to me. I'd have to like go back and watch. But to me, there was a clear breakup at the end of that episode. And though they're sitting in Scott's seats, like Kip and his friend and his dad are sitting in Scott's seats, he's tearing up and she's like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, I'm fine. So I don't know that they're together. I feel like we're seeing their first I love you.
They may not, that might be true, but I feel like there has probably been some back and forth and uncertainty for a while.
I don't know. Because like remember in episode 3 where Scott Hunter talks about like why he couldn't come out. He's like, well, I have the weight of the team on me, and like if I haven't won the cup, like he's talking about that. So now here he is like about to win the cup. I don't know. Some of the speculation online is just that like they really wanted to have that crossover moment at the Olympics, and so they changed the timeline of the relationship with Scott and Kip and hope no one would notice that there's this like 3-year time gap that happens where we don't know what happened with them. I don't know. Maybe we'll get an explanation at some point. Regardless, Kip is there. Scott sees him in the crowd after seeing everyone else bring out their family. And he's like, you come down. And then again, the announcers are like, oh, what a lucky fan. Lucky fan gets to come down on the ice.
And he gets to make out with the guy who's...
I know. And until like many kisses in, the broadcasters are finally like, oh, you don't see that every day. Like they're not really clocking what's happening. It's so funny to me.
It's like, I suppose it depends on who you ask if you see it every day or not.
That's true. Good point. Not in hockey at the...
No, for sure.
Yeah, not in male hockey. Anyway.
And male sports in general.
Right.
You know.
Except for maybe ice skating. But so they exchange I love yous. But meanwhile, our two boys are watching this and are transfixed. They're like, what is going on? They're texting, hello, what's happening? And then they kiss and they're both like, oh my God. And then Wolf Parade's I'll Believe in Anything is playing and like blaring. And it's this huge moment where lots of people cried watching that moment. And Shane, now Ilya calls Shane, even though Shane is at his parents' house. And Shane gets up, goes in the other room and takes the call. And he thinks that Ilya's calling just to be like, what the hell is happening? And instead Ilya's like, I'm coming to the cottage. And Shane just literally goes, and then it cuts.
Which is brilliant. I love
100 on 10. No notes.
10 out of 10. 10 out of 10. This episode was 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
All across the board, right up to the end. I loved that they were texting like, oh my God, furiously. And then Ilya calls him for the first time at his parents' house and he runs in the other room. I loved all of that. You could just feel, that it was building, it's building. Like, oh, what do we do with this? Look at this. Does this give us permission? I mean, this is what
exactly. Exactly. So. And what incredible payoff for the Hunter episode, which if you did, like when that first happened and I was like, wait, what, why, where are we? Where are my boys? Like, what's going on? And Jacob has talked about this in the decision making of like, worried that people would feel that way. Like, where did they go? Why are we with this other couple? What's happening? But wanting to have a public payoff, which they were never going to be able to have in this season.
You warned me, so I didn't freak out in the same way. But I will say that part of it too is like I'm seeing more of this kind of departure from main characters, especially with like kind of an ensemble cast.
Right.
In other shows, I'm seeing that kind of a lot. Like The Bear. I don't know if you watched The Bear.
I do.
There's several episodes where suddenly you're not following, Carmine and you're off, looking at some of the other characters. And at first I was like, come on, I care about him. But then you really end up buying into them too. And you see how it fits in this bigger picture. So yeah.
And they pulled it off. But this payoff was worth it. Like if we hadn't gotten this payoff, then the pull away wouldn't have been worth it. So,
I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay, so what do you predict is going to happen in episode 6?
Well, I looked up all the spoilers. I'm joking. No, I didn't. But I was like, if she wouldn't know if I watched episode 6, I could watch it and then rewatch it and talk about it like it's new. But I didn't.
All right. Devious girl.
But I did consider it because I was after watching episode 5, I was twice, and then we recorded and the recording didn't take and we had to read it. I was like, I have to wait longer. So anyway, I have another event tonight or I'd be watching it tonight, but absolutely tomorrow I'm going to watch.
Okay.
Yeah. So predictions. I don't know, but I think that there's going to be some happy, fun times between the boys, our boys,
Okay, fun
Ilya
and
and
game.
Shane.
Cottage, nice.
Yes, at the cottage. And I do think Svetlana's going to get someone. I feel like maybe not in this next episode, but I wonder if there's something more for her. I feel like it would be super sad to just have her kind of hanging around and she's got nobody. I don't feel that way about Rose. I feel like Rose is going to go off and do her thing, but for Svetlana, it feels different for some reason.
Okay.
Maybe long-term childhood connection is why it feels that way. I'm not sure.
Interesting.
Or maybe some seeds planted for something further along
Down the
the
road.
line with her. Other than that, I really don't know. It's going to end on a cliffhanger, so some shenanigans have to go down. Don't think they're going to come out yet. I think it's too soon for that. I think
Right.
they need to be more secure in their love for each other together openly more than before they can really come out and decide that they're going to come out. Whereas I do think that Kip and Scott, even if they haven't said I love you, I think they've had so much more intimate,
Right.
normal boyfriend time
Yeah, they
together.
were boyfriends. They were boyfriends. It's true.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and Kip was already out, right? So it was.
And he was already out.
already
So it
out.
was way less of a thing for him.
And it wouldn't be like not only you're gay, but you're with who? Ilya Rozanov? Like what?
Well, that's the other thing. And it would be highly publicized, like highly publicized. So it's a
Oh my
big
God.
deal. So I don't think
It would
that's going to happen yet.
break the internet if that happened.
It would break the internet.
For real.
Yeah, no, it would.
It would.
In our points of view, in the best way. We'd be like, yes.
That would be so ecstatic, but yeah, it would break the boy aquarium. Like if
it would.
Ovechkin, if it turned out that Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby had been in some 10-year situationship the whole time and came out, that would break the internet for sure.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
absolutely. So that's it. I have no idea how the cliffhanger is going to go.
Interesting.
But that's good.
Right.
I love
It's
that I
good.
can predict that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I haven't read the last 50 pages of the book,
Oh,
so I don't
smart.
know.
Okay, so you don't know. Okay.
I mean, if I'd read the book, I would have a lot more.
Of course. Yeah. Though there
ideas.
is a departure, again, without spoiling anything, this show ends in a different place than the book does.
Okay, good.
Don't read the end of the book. There's some stuff that, I think there's some Anyway, you'll see. Anyway.
I will see, and I will
You will
probably
see
tomorrow.
Yes, you will see soon. Oh my God. Just as total last aside, I think I mentioned before on this, I highly recommend The Artful Dodger. Season.
Which I'm watching right now.
Yes. Well, season 2 just dropped. And of course, it dropped 2 days ago. Of course, I've already watched all 8 episodes because I'm a psycho. But the first time
I'm
watched it
with episode 6 on this first season.
Okay, you're getting to the good part. Well, I literally fast forwarded through half of each episode just trying to figure out if my couple was okay at the end. That's really all I wanted to know. So I did that,
you
and
have
then
a big part in there, Catherine.
I do, and then I went back and I'm watching the show properly. But anyway.
That's so funny.
I know, right?
I understand that. You know what I'll do is I won't watch the show, but I will read the little synopses of each. Click okay, what does episode 8 say? It says blah, blah. Damn it. No. That's actually kept me from finishing a series here and there.
I agree with you. That's happened to me as well.
When things have gone off the rails and I'm like, what are the writers doing? This doesn't even make sense. And then I don't follow a show. That's happened a couple times.
Yeah.
With shows that I love. There were a couple of lawyer shows that I love a lawyer show.
Yeah.
As you know. And there was one and I can't remember what the heck it's called.
The Good Fight? The Good Wife?
Yes, The Good Wife. That one. It was the end of season 4 and then season 5 it just goes off the rails and I'm like, nah, now that guy's not around, he got shot or he left the show and I don't remember what it was at this point because that was years ago now, but yeah.
He did get shot. The Gilded Age, I did that this last season, The Gilded Age, because I was like, are they breaking them up? I'm so mad. And then I didn't watch the last episode and then went and read an episode summary. So I was like, okay, I can watch the next season. We're spoiling other shows for you on this bizarro episode.
I don't do that if there's no love.
I only care. No, I agree with you. I am a sap. I am a sap. And
weird. But I love shows that aren't love shows.
Me too.
romance, love shows,
Yes,
whatever.
yes.
I've forgotten my vocabulary apparently. But yes, no, I mean, like I loved Succession, for example. But I wasn't gonna stop watching it if there was no romantic triangle. But if there's some kind of romantic thread in a show, I absolutely hang around longer for that for sure.
100%. And
Yeah.
on that note, actually, James Van Der Beek just passed away,
Oh, I
and
saw that.
I
Oh,
know. And the whole Joey Pacey Dawson thing was, a formative love triangle in many of our lives.
yeah,
So that was a really a sad day. A sad and
yeah.
really,
He's
you know
got a
what?
bunch
Oh,
of kids too.
6. But honestly, what almost made me cry, again, what almost made me cry was reading some of the messages that other people who knew him
Oh,
were
yeah,
writing, and
yeah.
those are super sad. Anyway, okay, that was so happy. We're going to the cottage. It's a good thing because next week, loonies, we are finally here. We are finally going to the cottage. Heather will know everything. And hopefully this recording worked, because if we have to do it a third time, I'm gonna
I'm gonna
do some
boycott.
I'm gonna do something bad to myself. Okay. So anyway. All right, cool. We will see you next week. Thanks for listening.
Okay.
Like, subscribe, all the things.